Alright, welcome to a video lesson on solving one-step equations. Now, when we're solving these one-step equations, we're going to be solving with just integers, we'll be solving with decimals, and we'll be solving with some fractions. So there's going to be a lot of steps in here. This is going to be a lengthy video. So I put a break in the middle, so I highly suggest when we get to that break screen, you take a break, you relax. If you want to try some practice problems, try some practice problems. If you don't want to take a break and keep on going, keep on going. But I did put it in there because this is going to be a little long. So let's get it started. So an equation has an equal sign. This is different than the expressions we've been working with. Expression, there's no equal sign. And we can only solve equations. You cannot solve an expression. No equal sign, can't solve it. An equation is also like a scale. Whenever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So if you're adding or subtracting, multiplying, dividing from one side, you have to do the same thing exactly to the other side. To move a term, you do the opposite operation. So the opposite of addition, subtraction, subtraction, addition, opposite of multiplication, division, and division, multiplication. So we want to do the opposite. That 3x. This means 3 multiplied by x. Now I'm going to be interchanging that as we go. I'm going to sometimes say 3x and sometimes I'll say 3 multiplied by x. But I want you to remember that is a multiplication. That 2 over 5 means 2 divided by 5. So we take the numerator divided by the denominator. Now you'll hear 2 over 5 being said and you'll hear 2 divided by 5. I'm going to interchange this. But we need to remember what it means. It means division. That bar means division, and that's very important. So, we're going to start with addition. So we're going to start over here on the left. I'm going to do 3 problems as examples, and then you'll do 3 problems on your own, and you'll check your answers. So starting here on the left, we have x subtract 7 equals 13. Well, we're trying to isolate that x. We're trying to get the x all by itself. So in order to do that, we have to move our minus 7. So we're going to add 7 to both sides. That causes those 7's to cancel out because they equal 0. And we don't have to write the 0. And 13 plus 7 is 20. So x equals 20. We did one step. We added one number. Now, over here on the right, we have x minus 9.2 equals 8.7. Now, this isn't really anything too more difficult with the decimals. I just want to throw some decimals in there to work with. I'm assuming you'll probably use your calculator to add. So we have to move this 9.2. So 9.2 to both sides. We're going to add it. So if we do 8.7 plus 9.2, we'll get 17.9. Now here's where it's going to get a little complicated. We're going to have to add these fractions. So we're going to add 2 over 5 to both sides. Now you can only add fractions when they have the same denominator. Right now we don't have the same denominator. So I look at the 10 and I look at the 5 and I go, what can I get them to? If possible, you want to only manipulate 1. So I look, 5. I can turn a 5 into a 10. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this 2 over 5 and we're going to make it into a 10. Here. To do that, we have to multiply 5 by 2. But if we multiply the denominator by 2, we have to multiply the numerator by 2. So that means that's 4. So what we get here is x equals 1/10 plus 4 over 10. You only add the numerators, so we get 5 over 10. But we're not done. We have to see if we can simplify. And we can simplify 5 over 10. We can divide them both by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2, so our answer is x equals 1/2 or 1 divided by 2. So like I said, a little lengthy. But these are just simple steps that we're repeating from your grade school years, just over and over. We're trying to get them in our heads and good. So here are 3 examples I want you to try on your own. So go ahead, pause the video now and try them. Okay, so here are the solutions to that. Go ahead, check your solutions with mine. Make sure I did them right. Make sure you did them right. And then after that, we're going to move on to subtraction. So the subtraction works very similar to the addition, except now we're going to subtract. We're going to do the opposite because, as you can see here, we are adding a number with our variable every time. So we have x plus 5 equals 15. To move our plus 5, we are going to subtract 5 from both sides. So 15 minus 5, 10. In the middle here, we have y plus 4.6 equals 2.2. So to move our addition of 4.6, we are going to subtract 4.6. And we get y equals negative 2.4. And finally, we have the dreaded fraction. So we have a plus 6 divided by 5. So let's subtract 6 divided by 5 from both sides. So we get x equals 1925. No, I don't want to do that, sorry. Let's go ahead and just take that fraction, 6 over 5, and let's see, we can turn that 5 into a 25 by multiplying by 5. So we have to multiply them both by 5. So we get 30 over 25. Now don't forget that negative sign there. It's really easy to forget that subtraction. So we get x equals 19 over 25 minus 30 over 25. So again, just like addition, you only mess with the numerator. So 19 minus 30, negative 11 over 25. So there's our 3 examples. Right now I have 3 examples for you to try on your own. So go ahead, pause the video now and try those. Alright, so here are those solutions that I got. So go ahead and figure out if I did it right. If you did it right, check our works. We'll see. And you can also see that we didn't have to simplify our fraction again, just like on the previous one, but you always want to check to make sure that you can simplify that fraction. So here's the point where I'm going to ask you to take a break. If you want, go ahead, take a break, try some of the practice problems if you want, relax just for a minute or 2, and then start back this video. Okay, so let's move on to the multiplication. So, in all of these, there's going to be division, so we're going to do the opposite and multiply. So, this is where it's going to get a little bit trickier with those decimals. But our integers are the same. So, we start on the far left. We have x divided by 2. So, the opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2. So, we multiply both sides by 2. And when we do that, we're going to cancel. I am using quotation marks there with our division. So we get x equals negative 3 times 2. So 1 negative means it's a negative. 3 times 2 is 6. So we get negative 6. Now, over here, we have x divided by negative 2.2 equals negative 4.1. So we know in order to get rid of that division, we are going to multiply our negative 2.2. Now, 2 negatives make a positive. So when we put this in the calculator, you'll see we get 9.02. But here's the rule I want us to use here. Look and see how many, the one that has the most decimal points. So negative 2.2 has 1 decimal place. So that's the 10th place. Same thing with the negative 4.1. It has it in the 10th place. So let's round it to just the 10th place. I know we get a nice number here, but I just want us to work on our rounding skills as well. So we're going to round to the 10th place, and we're going to look at the 2. Remember, if it's between 0 and 4, it stays the same. If it's between 5 and 9, it goes up. So 2 is between 0 and 4, so we get x equals 9.0. And I want you to leave that decimal there, just so we know that we round it to the tenths place. Now we have x divided by 5 equals 3 divided by 10. We're still going to multiply here. Both sides by 5. Now there's a couple things you could do. You could simplify this now, or you could do the multiplication and then go on. I'm going to do the multiplication and then simplify later. I don't want to mix too many steps up at once. So this 5, it's a 5 divided by 1. Every number is divided by 1 if there's no division in the number. So we get x equals 3 times 5 is 15. And then we do 10 times 1. Whenever you multiply fractions, you multiply across. So a little throwback there. Now we have x equals 15 over 10. We can simplify that. The biggest number I can divide 15 and 10 by is 5. So I divide them both by 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So I get x equals 3 divided by 2 is my final answer there. So here are 3 examples I want you to try on your own. So go ahead, pause the video, and try those now. Okay, so here are the solutions to that. Just a couple notes. After you check yours and mine, I want you to notice that on our first one, we had 2 negatives, which changed to a positive. In our middle one with our decimals, we didn't have to do any rounding because it went right to the tenths. And then we did have to do some simplification there on the last one. Alright, last thing, division. So this is the most common thing you're going to be doing probably when we start actually solving these multi-step equations, is dividing that number away from the variable. So we start on the left, we have negative 3x multiplied by, so that's negative 3 multiplied by x, sorry. Negative 3x, negative 3 multiplied by x equals negative 12. So in order to get rid of that multiplication, we are going to divide by the negative 3. So that leaves us with x equals, 2 negatives make a positive, 4. Similar idea here. We're going to divide by the 4.2. And we're going to get x equals. Now we know it's going to be a negative because there's only one negative. So we get negative 2.0095 and then a bunch of other numbers. So again, let's go back and do our same rule we did with the multiplication. We see that the 4.2 has a tenths, and then the negative 8.44 has hundredths. So let's round it to the hundredths place, which means we're looking at the 9. The 9 is between 5 and 9, which means that it's going to round it up. So we get negative 2.0, and then the 0 rounds up to a 1. That's our final answer there. Now we're going to divide with a fraction. So we divide by 2, divide by 2. So our 2 goes away here, but now we have this funky thing where we have 4 divided by 5 divided by 2. Well, we can't have that. That just looks weird. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to take this divided by 2, and we're going to rewrite it, and we're going to multiply it in the denominator. So this is going to be 4 divided by 5 multiplied by 2. We do that multiplication and we get 4 divided by 10. We can simplify that. We can divide those both by 2. And we get x equals 1 divided by 5. It's our final answer. Now there's a couple other ways you could do that problem. Whenever you divide the 2, if you know those ways, do them. That's totally fine. If you want to know some more ways, ask me. I'll show you some other ways to do it. If that's a little bit too funky for you, no problems with that. The main thing here is that we divide by 2 in general. Just that's the main key. Okay, so last 3 examples for you to do. So go ahead, work on those now, pause the video. We're going to get this video done under 15 minutes. Alright, so here are those solutions. Check your answers with mine. Make sure we both did it correctly. You see something, flag it, let me know. After you do that, we're done with this video.